Welcome to our YouTube channel in the Incredible Stories niche, where we share heartwarming stories that inspire and touch the soul. Today, we're heading to the bustling streets of Chicago, where a simple gesture by a homeless girl to give water to a lost rich boy, the son of a powerful millionaire, sets off a chain of life-changing events. This riveting saga of kindness, redemption, and unexpected connections will show how a single gesture can touch hearts, from a lonely alleyway to the skyscrapers of wealth. Get ready for a story that will make you cry, hope, and believe in the power of compassion. In the summer of 2013, Chicago was bustling with life, its skyscrapers glistening in the sun, its streets alive with the hum of taxis and hurried footsteps. Amidst this urban symphony, 10-year-old Ethan Caldwell, with his disheveled blonde hair and bright blue eyes, wandered alone. Ethan was the only son of Victor Caldwell, a 45-year-old billionaire real estate tycoon whose name adorned half the city's skyscrapers. Victor, a stern man with gray temples and a heart hardened by years of ruthless deal-making, raised Ethan in a world of private jets and penthouses, but with little warmth. Ethan's mother, Claire, died when he was 3, leaving behind a void filled with nannies and gadgets. On that July afternoon, Ethan slipped away from his tutor during a museum field trip, chasing a street performer's balloon. His curiosity led him to the back streets of Chicago, narrow alleys far from the glitz of Michigan Avenue. By dusk, he was lost, his phone dead, his navy blue jacket torn. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, and his throat was dry from hours of walking. Ethan hunched over a dumpster in an alley off Clark Street, tears streaming down his dusty cheeks. "Dad's going to kill me," he whispered, holding his knees tightly. In the same alleyway lived 12-year-old Leila Monroe, a homeless girl with tousled brown hair, freckled cheeks, and eyes that radiated quiet resilience. Leila had been on the streets for 2 years, since her mother, a single parent, died of an illness, and the system failed to find her a home. She survived by collecting cans, avoiding danger, and dreaming of a better life under the stars. Lila's most precious possession was a bent water bottle that she filled at the fountains in the park, her only constant in a world of uncertainty. Leila spotted Ethan from behind the cardboard shelter she had made. At first she was hesitant. Rich children were a sign of trouble, often violent or neglectful, but his sobs, raw and frightened, awakened something in her. She walked over, her sneakers silent on the pavement. "Hey," she said quietly, sitting down. "Are you okay?" Ethan flinched and then shook his head. "I'm lost, and so thirsty." Leila glanced at her water bottle, half full from her last trip to the fountain. Without hesitation she handed it to him. "Here, it's clean." Ethan drank greedily, water running down his chin. "Thank you," he said breathlessly in a small voice. Leila smiled slightly. "It's okay. What's your name?" They talked. Ethan about his father's grand office. Leila about the best places to see the city's fireworks. For a moment, the alley seemed less lonely. Leila offered to walk him to the police station, but Ethan, embarrassed, insisted that he would find his way on his own. He promised to repay her for her kindness, scribbling his name on the museum ticket before running off. Leila tucked the ticket into her pocket, never expecting to see it again. Back at the Caldwell penthouse, Victor was desperate. His security team, led by 38-year-old Marcus Reed, a former Marine with a scar on his jaw, was scouring the city. Victor, pacing his marble-floored office, shouted orders into his phone, his usual composure broken. "Find my son or you will all be fired," he roared. Deep inside, he was gnawed by guilt. He had been distant, immersed in his work, leaving Ethan in the care of nannies like 25-year-old Sarah, who was now sobbing, blaming herself for his loss. At midnight, the police found Ethan at the bus stop, disheveled but unharmed. Victor rushed to the station, wrapping his son in a rare hug. "Don't ever scare me like that again," he muttered in a hoarse voice. Exhausted, Ethan mumbled something about the girl who had given him water. Victor, worried, barely listened. Assuming it was a passerby, he sent Ethan home with Sarah, promising to increase security. But Ethan couldn't forget Lila's kindness, her quiet strength which remained in his memory. The next day, confined to the penthouse, Ethan began to pester Marcus to find the girl. She was in an alley, probably homeless, he said, handing over the receipt. Marcus, loyal but skeptical, approached him, promising to look for her. Victor, overhearing this, brushed it off. Some street kid, focus on school, Ethan. But Ethan's persistence sowed a seed in Marcus's mind. He started asking around Clark Street, showing Leela's description to shopkeepers and shelter workers. Leela's life went back to normal. She wandered the streets of Chicago, avoiding gangs and cops, always carrying a water bottle. At night, she would curl up in her cardboard shelter, reading a battered library book by the light of a street lamp. Leela dreamed of becoming a writer, creating stories of hope to escape reality. She often thought about Ethan, wondering if he had made it home. The ticket, now crumpled, reminded her of her one good deed in a city that rarely noticed her. One evening, Leela overheard two men in an alleyway, burly types with tattoos, talking about cleaning up homeless camps for a developer. She recognized the name, Caldwell Enterprises. Her heart sank. Was Ethan's father behind this? She didn't know that Victor's company was evicting homeless people to build a luxury condominium. Terrified, Leela moved her shelter to a new alley, but the men's words haunted her. She clutched the cigarette butt tightly, torn between anger and the memory of Ethan's grateful eyes. Meanwhile, the search for Marcus bore fruit. A volunteer at the shelter, 50-year-old Rosa Martinez, remembered a girl who matched Leela's description. Marcus found Leela at a fountain in the park, refilling her bottle. "You're the one who helped Ethan Caldwell?" he barked. Leela tensed, nodding cautiously. Marcus softened when he saw her thin posture and wary eyes. "Ethan wants to thank you. Come with me." Leela hesitated. She had learnt not to trust strangers, but Marcus's mention of Ethan had an effect on her. She followed him to the diner where he bought her a burger, her first hot meal in weeks. Marcus called Ethan, who begged Victor to meet with Leela. Victor, overwhelmed by a deal to buy a historic theater for demolition, agreed only to reassure his son. At the diner, Ethan rushed to Lila and hugged her. "You saved me," he smiled radiantly. Lila, clumsy in her patched jacket, mumbled, "Just water." Victor, in his tailored suit, looked at her, his businessman's mind doing the maths. He saw a scruffy child, not a hero, but Ethan's gratitude evoked something unusual, perhaps shame at his own indifference to the city's poor. Victor offered Lily money, a crisp $500 bill. "For your efforts," he said sharply. Leela stared at it and then pushed it back. "I didn't do it for the money," she said in a flat voice. Victor blinked, not used to being rejected. Ethan, feeling the tension, blurted out, "Can Leela stay with us? She has no home." Victor frowned. But Marcus, who had grown fond of Leela, added, "She's a good kid, sir. She deserves a chance." Victor, backed into a corner, agreed to a temporary stay at a shelter funded by his company, promising to sort out her situation. Reluctantly, but tired of the streets, Leela agreed, clutching a water bottle as a lifeline. At the shelter, Leela met Rosa, who became her mentor, teaching her how to navigate the system. Rosa, a former social worker, saw the potential in Leela's sharp mind and kind heart. Lila started going to school, her first class in many years, and wrote stories in a notebook she had been given. But she couldn't shake the fear of Victor's eviction plans, which Rosa said would lead to the eviction of hundreds of people. Lila vowed to protect her street friends without knowing how. Victor's life fell apart. The theater deal sparked protests led by 30-year-old activist Jamal Carter, who accused Caldwell Enterprises of destroying Chicago's culture for profit. The media portrayed Victor as a heartless tycoon, and his board of directors pressured him to fix this PR disaster. At home, Ethan talked endlessly about Lila, her stories and her life on the street. "She's just like me, Dad, but she has nothing," he said one evening. Victor, haunted by Lila's refusal of his money, began to question his legacy. Was he the villain that Jamal called him? Marcus, who had been tasked with telling Victor about Leela's condition, shared her progress, her grades, her talent for writing, and her quiet courage. "She is special, sir," Marcus said. Victor visited the orphanage and watched as Lila helped the younger children with their homework. Her freckled face, so similar to his late wife Claire's, brought back memories of a better time. Claire had worked as a volunteer in shelters, a passion that Victor buried after her death. For the first time, he felt a stab of responsibility that went beyond his son. Victor has hired a private investigator, 42-year-old Elena Voss, to look into Lila's past. Elena discovered that Lila's mother, Emily Monroe, was a talented poet who had become impoverished after an illness. Lila had no living relatives, but her mother's unpublished poems, found in a vault, revealed a dreamer in her. Much like Lila, Elena found Emily Monroe's papers but dug deeper, discovering a letter from Claire in the hospital's archives. Claire, before her marriage to Victor, had an affair with the poet David Lawson in 2000, giving birth to a daughter who was given up for adoption. Emily, a friend of Claire's, adopted the girl Leela. Elena found a DNA match in the medical records. Leela was Claire's illegitimate daughter. Victor, upon receiving the report, was stunned. Leela, who had saved Ethan, was his stepdaughter, about whom he had no knowledge. Victor moved, published Emily's work through his company's charity arm, and dedicated it to Lila. The book Stars Over the Alleys became a quiet hit, and the proceeds went to fund the orphanage. Victor recalled an argument with Claire in 2001 when she confessed to an affair but made no mention of anything else. He brushed it off, immersed in his career, and their reconciliation was fragile. Now, after learning about Lila, he felt guilty for the years he had lost. He ordered a DNA test anonymously. Leela was Claire's daughter. Leela, unaware of Victor's efforts, learned of the consequences of the eviction. Her friend, 16-year-old Ty, a street artist who had taught her to paint, was arrested during a protest against the Caldwell condominiums. A furious Leela approached Ethan during a visit to the shelter. "Your dad is kicking my friends out," she said with tears in her eyes. Offended, Ethan promised to talk to Victor. Inspired by Jamal's protests, Leela wrote a story about a homeless girl who saves her alley and shared it at a school reading. Rosa sent it to the local newspaper, and it went viral, earning Lila an invitation to speak at a city council meeting. At the meeting, Leela, trembling but determined, read her story in front of Victor, Jamal, and the officials. "A glass of water can save a life," she said, "but a home saves a soul." Her words, sincere and genuine, silenced the room. Victor, who was in the audience, felt a lump in his throat. Later, Jamal approached Lila, offering to mentor her activism. Victor, stunned, canceled the condominium project and redirected the funds to affordable housing. He met with Lila privately to apologize. "I'm trying to change," he said. Leela nodded, wary but hopeful. Leela found a box in the shelter with Emily's belongings, including a photo of Claire and Emily, and a note, "Take care of my star." Leela felt a connection to Claire without knowing the truth. She asked Rosa about her mother, but Rosa only knew about Emily's friendship with Claire. Leela began to suspect that her life was connected to the Caldwells. Victor's transformation deepened. He invited Leela to live with him and Ethan, not as a charity, but as family. Leela, who had spent months in a shelter, accepted, bringing her water bottle and notebook. Ethan, excited, called her his sister. Marcus, who was now her friend, helped her adapt, and Rosa remained her confidant. Victor, inspired by Claire's memories, founded the Monroe Caldwell Foundation, which builds shelters and schools. Leela's contribution shaped its mission, ensuring that no child feels forgotten. In 2014, Elena found David Lawson, 50, now a librarian in Boston. He confirmed the affair with Claire and had heard about Leela from Emily before she died. David came to Chicago to meet his daughter. Victor, afraid of losing Leela, arranged a meeting in the park. When Leela saw David, she felt warm. His eyes were like hers. David tells the truth, showing Claire's letters. Leela was stunned, feeling betrayed by Victor. Leela ran to the alley where she met Ethan. Rosa found her, explaining that Victor was afraid of her pain. Leela returned to listen to Victor. "Claire would have loved you," he said, holding out her amber star necklace. Leela forgave, accepting Ethan as her brother and Victor as her guardian. She met up with David and kept in touch. In 2015, 14-year-old Leela published the book Water in the Alley. About her life and Ethan's rescue, it became a bestseller, and the royalties funded her dreams of going to college. Ethan joined her, painting murals with Ty, who was now free, and under Jamal's guidance. Victor, who was now milder, attended their events, and his pride was evident. One winter, Lila visited her old alley again, which had become a community garden thanks to the foundation. She put her water bottle, now empty, in the ground, a symbol of her past. Bella, the old stray dog she was feeding, touched her hand. "We did it," Lila whispered, tears freezing on her cheeks. By 2020, 19-year-old Leela was studying literature at Northwestern University, her poems echoing her mother's. Ethan, 17, ran a youth art program, and his murals adorned Chicago shelters. Victor, 52, retired from real estate to devote himself to the foundation. The alley where Leela met Ethan became Monroe Park with a fountain that read, "A cup of water changes everything." At the opening of the park, Leela and Ethan stood with Victor, Rosa, Marcus, and Jamal. Leela recited a poem about kindness in a strong voice. "One act can light up a city," she said. That night, Leela saw Bella the dog in the park, surrounded by stray puppies. She left a bowl of water. Her heart was full. The stars above formed a heart, alluding to her mother's poems. Leela knew that her kindness, like the water, would be cherished forever. Thank you very much for watching our story to the end. Subscribe to the channel, like it, leave comments so you don't miss new, interesting, exciting stories. See you soon.